So much rain in such a short time. 491 millimetres, just short of half a metre, fell in some areas around Valencia, according to the Spanish Weather Service. That's a year's worth of rain in just 8 hours. The weather system that caused the flooding is not unusual on the eastern side of the Iberian Peninsula at this time of year. Winds flowing over the still warm waters of the Mediterranean picked up lots of moisture, then mixed with a pool of cold air sitting high in the atmosphere over the Valencia region. This allowed huge storm clouds to develop with intense downpours. The low-pressure storm also ground to a halt, surrounded on all sides by high atmospheric pressure. Its path was blocked. The heaviest rain fell on just a smaller area, and it was quickly overwhelmed. Now, climate change will make storms more severe. The atmosphere is currently just over a degree warmer than it was in pre-industrial times, holding around 7% more moisture. But we are currently on track for more than 3 degrees of warming by the end of the century.
We can see that we're not ready for the storms that we're receiving now in our cities. They are not built to withstand this amount of water, this amount of destruction, this amount of power, and it's going to be worse in the future. This is an urgent call to adapt our cities where we can.
Spain has endured climate extremes in recent years, with a severe drought in the northeast forcing authorities to ration tap water. The dry heat has also hard-baked the soil surface, so water runs off rather than being absorbed. And all that rain had nowhere to go.
Chicas, asomaros del vernos. ¡Ay, Dios mío! ¡Ay, Dios mío! Esto es una puta locura. Estoy flipando. ¿De dónde sale tanto juguete? El coche se va a la mierda. El coche se va a la mierda.
Una Nintendo Switch.
Oh shit. You kidding me?
Que se complica. Madre mía, no salgo de aquí, no salgo.
Y hay gente que se ha quedado dentro de las tiendas por seguridad y ahora no pueden salir. Y están dando golpes desesperados porque está subiendo un montón el agua.
La bajada al parking. Huele a disolvente, ¿eh? Ten cuidado con los pies que los llevas. No, espérate que yo quiero grabar esto. Esto es una locura. Madre mía.
No man, what's all that? Oh, pallets, fridges. Oh dear.
Que sabemos que la ayuda está tardando en llegar a muchos puntos, que aún hay casas y garajes bloqueados, municipios anegados y mucha gente desvalida. Por eso celebro que el presidente Mazón haya decidido elevar de 500 a 5.000 su petición de efectivos militares, y les anuncio, como le he trasladado a él en la llamada que he hecho antes de comparecer ante los medios de comunicación, les anuncio que el gobierno de España procederá inmediatamente a ese envío. Y además he ordenado desplegar un buque anfibio de la Armada, dotando de alojamientos, de quirófanos, de helicópteros y de una flota de vehículos de apoyo que arribará en el puerto de Valencia en las próximas horas. A lo largo de las últimas 48 horas, las fuerzas y cuerpos de seguridad del Estado y las Fuerzas Armadas han inspeccionado miles de garajes, viviendas, cauces fluviales, carreteras y han llevado a cabo la localización y el levantamiento de 211 víctimas mortales. La situación que estamos viviendo es trágica, es dramática. Casi con toda seguridad hablamos de la inundación más grave que ha visto nuestro continente en lo que va de siglo. Y soy consciente de que la respuesta que se está dando no es suficiente. Lo sé. Sí que hay problemas y carencias severas, que aún hay servicios colapsados, municipios sepultados por el lodo, gente desesperada buscando a sus familiares, personas que no pueden acceder a su domicilio, hogares destrozados y sepultados por el barro. Sé que tenemos que mejorar.
Están las dos sucias.
Oh. Can you imagine being stuck in there? Jeez. Look at this. Ugh. Carnage. Carnage.
Profesional, pues es parte de nuestro trabajo y desde un punto de vista humano he hecho una desgracia muy grande.
To Mimi, who's here in the studio. Mimi, thanks for coming up for us. It's, as we've been saying, a developing situation, a fluid situation. We're still trying to make sense of it. We're getting a little more detail. But what have you been picking up as you're monitoring the situation online?
Fury is the obvious word here. People are really angry. They've said that the town will look after the town, the people will look after the people, and that is mainly because there has been a lack or a slow response from the government. And we've seen this really come to a forefront when the king arrived in a town near the city Valencia, where people chanted murder to him. They were saying, "You're 4 days late. It's taken you 4 days to come. Why are you so late? You should be embarrassed." Really angry. They were throwing mud in some cases. I mean, that is unheard of, throwing mud at a king. People are unhappy. People have really blamed the system, the authorities, for the slow response, but also the really late warnings. And that was where a lot of this anger has come from, that people, if they'd known, could have got out of their cars, could have got off the road, could have gone to higher ground, gone to safety. No people needed to die in these floods, and that is why people are so upset. This is a tragedy on a huge scale, one of the worst in Spain's history, and also one of the most costly.
We've been listening in to Pedro Sanchez make those press statements yesterday when he said that we're focused on the rescue and relief efforts, but there will be a time to fix accountability to answer a lot of those questions. But having said that, what have you picked up so far about the government's defense or justification for why they couldn't do what they needed to do?
Well, the government at the end of last week came out fighting, saying they defended the timings of the warnings, even though in some areas, the first hit town, for example, Chiva near Valencia, they got their warning about 8 a.m. local time. However, by that time, they'd already been heavily flooded for at least 2 hours, and that was a common story among other towns in the region. They also defended the management of the disaster as a whole. However, as the fury grows, as the devastation is now actually being understood, the true impact of this disaster, the scale of this disaster, I think they're going to have to go back on what they've said, that they're defending it with all their might, and actually give the people an apology, because that is what they want in many cases. People I've been speaking to, they're just so upset that the government, they feel, have failed them and allowed this to happen. At the moment, the focus is still on trying to reach these really hard-hit areas, these isolated areas. We've seen volunteers, thousands of volunteers traipsing in and out of these zones, which have been turned into unrecognisable areas, homes, businesses, livelihoods destroyed. So that is the focus right now, but I'm sure, as you said, it will very quickly turn to accountability.
Right. Maybe just hold on for a moment. I just want to update that the royals, the Spanish royals, the king and queen, as we're hearing now, have just left the flood-hit town of Paiporta after facing that angry crowd. So we can...
Hello for lava. Malo les soy fua. My wife and I are so delighted to be able to host you for dinner this evening. However wet it may have been, I'm told that I have been credited in Samoa with bringing these heavy rains, shades perhaps of my father's godlike status in Vanuatu. Heralds, I can only hope, of a particularly good harvest. Now, many of you, I know, have nobly travelled a very long way to be in Apia, often, by all accounts, via several different airlines and several different countries over many, many hours and time zones. But it is, of course, quite normal that our friends from this corner of the world travel great distances to attend international meetings. So perhaps it is only fair that they occasionally get a break from that. And I can only say it will be interesting to see this evening who has the most success in battling jet lag. It is, though, a particular joy for me to return here and to deepen my understanding of Samoa and her people. I first visited, can you believe this, Samoa in 1974 as a young naval officer aboard a ship called HMS Jupiter. And from my naval journal, which I kept at the time throughout my naval career, I recall that we held a reception on board, at the end of which the two splendid hotel-owning sisters, Aggie Gray and Aunt Mary, got up and danced, as I described it, in the beautiful Samoan style. And it is a happy coincidence to be back here on this occasion, at which I attended an event at a hotel that is still named in honour of Aggie Gray some 50 years later. So it just shows how unbelievably old I am. But, ladies and gentlemen, it remains a lifelong aspiration to have visited all the countries of the Commonwealth, although nowadays it seems to be a race against our happily increasing numbers, as well as doctors' orders. But I do want to offer my heartfelt thanks once again to the government and people of Samoa for the wonderful way in which you have welcomed us. There is so much to learn from Samoa's outstanding hospitality, the strength of the Samoan spirit, and the immense pride that Samoans have for your country, your culture, not to mention the wonderful way in which your villagers have decorated their roads and communities. And I think and hope I speak for many of us when I say how deeply our experiences have touched us. here and how they will stay with us always. In particular, if I may say so, the unforgettable magic of the singing and dancing at the end of the opening ceremony today. As far as I'm concerned, it raised my spirits to the roof and made me feel unbelievably happy. Now, this, as you know, is the first Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting to be held in a small island state in the Pacific. In this nation of 200,000 souls are gathered this week the representatives of 2.7 billion people, a third of the world's population. And once again, the extraordinary diversity and enduring power of the Commonwealth are proudly on display. And as I look around the room this evening, it gives me enormous pride to think that there really are very few occasions in which leaders with such diverse experiences and perspectives can come together over dinner as friends and indeed as a family to learn from and to draw strength from one another. Together with the boundless potential of the countries and people who make up our unique and incredibly special organization, your friendships offer us the means to confront the challenges we all face, to serve those who are most vulnerable in our societies, and to embrace the myriad opportunities before us. The Scottish poet and essayist and travel writer Robert Louis Stevenson, who lived and died on this beautiful island and is commemorated in this museum, his old house, wrote that one should not judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. So as we look from this idyllic place across the world, dark clouds have gathered over many regions, but the Commonwealth can surely be a cause of hope and healing. International challenges on such a scale call for international solutions through dialogue and discussion, for that is where eventually peace resides. The sheer scale and diversity of Commonwealth membership, spanning the entire globe and embracing more than one-third of the human race, gives us the understanding, the credibility, and indeed the clout to play a full role in promoting and protecting peace and prosperity. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can only hope that your vital discussions this week and the commitments you make to one another will plant the seeds of a more resilient future. One in which people across the Commonwealth, today and the generations who follow, can thrive and fulfill not just their own potential, but the potential of the global family to which we all belong. So let us remember that the potential of our Commonwealth is actually unparalleled in global terms. Therefore, in raising our glasses together this evening, let us celebrate that aspiration and the strength of the partnership between us. Ladies and gentlemen,